It's time to return to the world of Otome. We got a fan disc here for you.
We do.
That's all I got.
Oh,
It's a fanfare, you might say. Hey,
yeah, it's the fan disc for
it's
Radiant Tail.
radiant. Oh,
Radiant Tail Fanfare is the name of this fan disc. I didn't realize you were prompting me because I'm a dumbass.
no, I really wasn't. I was just saying things.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes you just say things for saying things' sake.
No, it's true. It's true. It's true.
Anyways, yes, hello, welcome to this week's episode of the Seasonal Anime Checkup OVA. It's a podcast where we have conversations about video games, anime, and manga. Hello, I'm Jared, joined as always by Doc Al and Lady
Hello.
This is episode 398. Getting close to episode 400.
Oh, snap. We gotta figure out what we're gonna do.
Yeah, it's nice that we're going to actually have some time in between recordings, so we might actually be able to put the noggins to use, potentially, or at least I can. You probably less so, but me, I can put the noggin to use.
Yeah, I'm
In
gonna be a
between.
smidge busy, but
Smidge busy. But yes, we were talking about Radiant Tail Fanfare today. Just, like you said, an Otome game is the fan disc of the original Radiant Tail game. And now you may be asking yourself, Sack OVA, where did Al put the original game on the official ranking of Otome? And I'm glad you asked, people. This came in out of our 40 Otome games. Radiant Tail was number 28. So already not off to a great start. And I don't think we're going to get to a much better place when we are concluded here today.
No, we're not.
So anyways, Radiant Tail Fanfare. Here's what I know about this game from Al.
Okay.
Wow, this game is incredibly boring, and these routes are not that great. I am incredibly bored of this game. I'm just really trying to get to the people I like. I don't know if you got to the people you liked and enjoyed it then or not, but it was a lot of, wow, this game's incredibly boring.
I mean,
Which I don't know, to be fair. I guess we'll get to this when we get to the ranking and all that. If that is something that is better or worse if it was just outright bad. I mean, we will get to that when we get to the ranking, so I guess that is something to keep in mind.
yeah, that's something I have to think about. Because yeah, if you want the big spoiler-free like answer to this game is boring. Like the after routes, which are the routes with the original guys, they're only 4 chapters, and I was able to knock each one out in like maybe 2 to 3 hours. And a lot of it was just like, oh my God, please just shut up. Like, I don't care. Which is not what you want with an Otome game. You don't want the dude to shut up and you don't want to tell him you don't care. But every single one of them was like, yep, yep, uh-huh, sure, whatever. Like, there was one that was okay, but um, I was like, all right, well, then I get the if stories, the new guys. And one of them, I was just like, why are you here? Why are you a choice? And we'll talk about that, but there was a lot of like very, very clear retconning happening in there. I was like, okay. And then there was the one I wanted, the Wolfman, which if you will follow me on our character sheet here,
I'm following.
do you see the top line? Um,
They are all
the
in a line, you're right.
right. The purple haired man, it's like the third one near the end.
Third one near the end.
Of the top line.
For me, everyone is in the same line.
Okay, well, do you see a purple hair man
Does he have like a tattoo on his neck?
on his neck? Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
this guy. Yeah, he's got the bad rat tail mullet.
No mullet, but he's the one that I played this for. I
I'm
I
sorry.
was So here's the thing. When I played the original game, and you could probably go back to our original podcast and hear me say this, like I was so mad that this guy wasn't dateable. I was so mad because he was so much more likable than anybody else in the in the main cast. I was like, I like this guy. So when I found out with the fan disc that he was dateable, I was like, all right, I'm in. I'm in. Let's go. Uh, I guess his name is Leon. Leon. I don't know how you want to say it. I guess, uh, Leanne. How would you say it?
So in my mind, because he's a wolf,
Mm-hmm.
it would be lion. And I guess not
Lion.
lion, but like lion because he's like a lichen.
Oh,
But that could also just be wrong. Who knows? If it's like Japanese pronunciation, it would probably be like Leon.
Leon.
But I didn't play this game, so I didn't hear people say his name, so who knows?
They don't say his name very often.
Whoa, that's great.
Yep. So he is the one that I played this for.
You really wanted that rat tail mullet.
I really wanted that red tail mullet, that purple hair, man. Um, so he's the like archetype of like the like goofy flirty man. I was like, all right, I'm in. Um, but again, the original game, he was not dateable, and I was devastated. So, um, with your whole like, this is what I know about it, and boring, 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 boring. I'm only playing for the guy that I want. This is him. And I kept telling you, like, I all I want to do is date the wolf man. God,
Yes,
I hope the wolf,
this is all true.
I hope the wolf man doesn't let me down because that's all I want to do is date the wolf man. And I was saving him for last because it's like, okay, I just got to power through the rest of this and I can date the wolf man. And I'll leave the game on a high note.
Uh huh.
We'll find out if I left the game on a high note after I go through the rest of the the stories. Oh man. Um, yeah, this game is weird because it feels like these could have just been like tagged on epilogues to what was in the original game as opposed to like a new game. Like it didn't feel like there was enough
Right.
for a new thing. Like if you compare it to like the Code Realize fan disc or like the Pio Fiore, which you know I have issues in 1926, but like it still had a lot of content. Um like those had so much content. It felt like it was new and it didn't feel like they were like rehashing the same stuff. But that's not the case here. Um, so yeah, I will talk about some of these routes. And again, I don't have a whole lot to say because a whole lot doesn't happen. It's just boring. Wah. So I started with Zephora because he was like my least favorite guy in the first one. He was the clown man. So if again you follow me on our character sheet here, he is the third person.
He is a clown.
He's a clown. If you do his little arrow, then you can see what he looks like normally.
Like a clown.
He doesn't look like a clown normally. He does have a weird sleeve though, like a weird cape sleeve.
He's got two belts. But it's like one big belt, but two loops,
But
two
then it's got like
fasteners.
that thing like hanging off of that
A
belt.
little
What
jingle
is
jangle off of it.
what is that?
It's called fashion.
He also has the boob window when he's a clown.
Yes, you are
So
right.
the man straight up got a boob window. Um, so his whole thing is he's like the tsundere character. And I don't know if you remember, but his route ended up with like his best route in the previous game ended with him like ignoring the protagonist for a year and then like sending a note being like, "Hi, I want you to come be my secretary." And like that's his big like love confession, I guess.
And now you get to go be a secretary. Yay.
That's legit what happens here is like
Woo.
the entire story of his thing is just like them figuring out like, oh God, we're terrible at communicating at each other. Like she'll tell him, you know, I need like some lovey-dovey words. I need you to tell me I'm doing a good job. I need something. And he would just like run away or refuse to do it. But then like you find out that he's been like saying nice things to her in her sleep and telling her how much he loves her in her sleep. And I'm like,
Great.
Dude. Dude. Come on. And like the only reason she finds out is because she's like half awake at one point. He comes in, he's like rubbing her hair and telling her how she did a good job and then he loves her and all that. I was like, bruh, bruh.
Look, when you're a clown, that's romance.
Is it?
Apparently. That's what we're
Oh,
learning here.
okay, well then. Um, the good news is that he gets some advice from two of the other boys. Billio, who is the dragon man. He's the red hair man, the second
Mm-hmm.
guy. And then our boy Leon, Leon,
Wolfman.
Wolfman. They're dude like dude, what are you doing? What are you doing? This is not how you romance a gal. Like you are screwing things up. So they kind of like kick him in the butt and make him get things together. And the whole reason that like he ends up getting it together, and this bothers me, and it's a trope that I hate, but he realizes like he's jealous of other people paying attention to her.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And so then he gets it together and is like, no, you're mine. And like, I want to be the one that says nice things to you. And I want to be the one that's around you and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, come the f on. The only reason you're able to say nice things to her is because you're jealous of other dudes. No, no, no. So this was not for me. This route was not for me. I was
Off to a great
glad.
start.
Off to a great start. I was glad when it was done. Because
Get out of here.
it was messy. There's like this weird poker moment in there that I was like, I don't know what's happening.
Your favorite game.
I'm notorious for my love of poker. Um, so yeah, great start. Killing it. So then I went to the dude that I next I still didn't like this guy. I didn't
Which
like this guy either.
which one did you go to?
Roddy. He's the pink little
The the
fluffy
the,
man.
the mascot.
Yeah. His real name is Ralida. I don't remember how to pronounce it. They never call him that, so it's whatever. Call him Ratty. Um,
He's got a bolo tie.
so he's the guy who is basically like been around since she was a kid, and like she considered him like older brother parental figure. I mean, he's known her since she was like 6 years old, which is um and so yeah, this one is oh, I forgot to mention the last guy. They end up getting married. That's it. They get married.
Great.
Woo! I'm sure that's gonna be a great and healthy relationship. So anyway, we're dating our parental figure now. Oh, they're married too. So that's kind of like what their dynamic in this fan disc is like figuring out what it means to be married. Um,
Should probably figure that out sooner than this.
right. Um, the weird thing is that like they basically do like a 2.0 of the original game here. That like Ratty and Tifalia, the main character, basically start up like the second circus troupe and like travel around the world and they're trying to bloom more of the happiness flowers. So it's like you're literally just doing the same thing again. Why?
Hey, you remember the first game? What if we did it again?
Right, but with other characters and none of the charming dudes that like are charming in other routes, but not when you date them. So yeah, I don't know. They're like trying to figure out like what she wants to do with her life.
Clearly the
And
circus.
well, I mean, that's kind of like her decision is like, I want to make people happy and I want to make you happy, especially. And it's like, ooh, ooh. And they just kept reminding me of like, right, he is a lot older than her because there's like several moments in there where he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go hit the booze and like you can't do that because you're underage. And I'm like, oh, I don't know what that noise is, and I'm sorry when you have to edit this. I just turned into Popeye or something. Um, like I don't know. I have real issues with like characters who have known people since they were a child and then like end up being together. Looking at you, Sishomer and Ren.
I was about to say, it's like, yeah, we just, may have watched that something similar to that, just a little bit ago.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Um, and especially because she considers him a parental figure, that I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
Like if they had just done the older brother and like, okay, maybe, but like no, she considers him a parent. Like, nope, nope, no, 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 no. So yeah, it's basically just like, hey, we're doing the same thing that we did in the first game. Yay.
All right. Well, next round.
Next round, Eon. He is the man with the face mask and the
he's got
silver
a
hair.
he's got a spear
He does have a spear. He's like
and an
military
eye
man.
patch.
He does have an eye patch. That is also correct. He doesn't need it, but he has it.
What?
He has a tattoo on his eye that's a symbol of him being like enslaved. So he wears the eye patch to cover up the tattoo. Also, again, problematic that like the dark-skinned man is the one that they enslaved.
Yeah.
But that's another story for
Not
another time.
good.
Not good. Um, so Eon is living with the protag Tifalia. They're both working at her aunt's like tavern, basically. He's been bodyguarding, I guess, for the king. And he keeps hearing like them talk about like, oh no, here are all the bad things that are happening back in his hometown because things are chaotic after the the dude who had I think it was the seventh I think it was the seventh. Anyway, it was like one of the Colosseums. He had the seventh one and he was a bad guy. He ended up getting arrested. Now the seventh is open and there's chaos because like they don't want to have people beating up everybody to try and get what they want anymore in this town. So, he's just listening to the king talk about this, and then the king's like, "Wait a minute. We have an expert in this town in this very room. What if we sent him to try and figure out what's going on in this town?" Um, and he's like, "Oh no, I am sad because I'll have to be away from Tifalia." And she's like, "Or I could just go with you. That's fine."
Wait, I didn't think of this.
He's like, "Oh, um." And there ends up being a conversation at the bar of like them getting married. And he's like, "Yeah, we'll do that whenever she wants to do it. I don't care." And all the other guys are like, "Scandal. You can't just say it like that. It has to be a big deal. You have to like make it into a whole thing when you propose." And eventually they have a conversation. She's like, yeah, I would like it for it to be a big thing, but like do it on your own terms. Don't just do it because people are saying that you should do it. And it's like, okay, I can do that. Um, so they go back to the town and It's basically a whole lot of, how do we figure out how to keep the economy of this town going because it was based on like these gladiator fights, but we don't want to do that anymore because people were dying and it was tragic and it was very like problematic. And so there's like political tension of, this side wants them to continue, this side wants to figure out something else. There's like a split vote on how this is going to work. And so essentially what they decide is, well, we'll do a gladiator trial to seat the seventh Colosseum leader, and that person will be the tiebreaker on this. And wow, Eon's like, what if I take part in this? Wow. So he does, and he beats up a lot of people, and he wins. Yay. So now he's the owner of the Seventh Coliseum. And he's like, Tivalia, now I'm sad because I have to be away from you because I have to be the leader of the Seventh Coliseum. She's like, Eon, we went over this already. I will go with you. I will be with you wherever you want to go. It's fine. He's like, oh yes.
Oh.
Right. Right. Um, so yeah, it's that happens. He proposes, they get married. He's like, would you like to do the intimate hugs with me? And she freaks out.
Nah, not
And
really.
he's like, should I take that as a no? She's like, no, 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 no. Don't take that as a no. Just maybe don't say it in public. And that's their route.
It's
Cool.
not as bad as the other ones so far.
His was actually one of the better ones. It's just a lot of him being a dumbass,
Yeah.
but not like an infuriating dumbass. He's just like, oh, right.
Like, oh, I didn't consider this. Okay, cool.
Because like there was this whole conversation about like how getting married could potentially like take away some freedom. And so that was a little like intimidating to him at first because, he was literally enslaved. But then he's like, wait, no, that's not correct. Like it doesn't take away any freedom. Like I have the freedom to choose who I want to be with, and I have the freedom to do what I want to do. And so like it's it's fine. So I'm glad that that wasn't like dragged out and annoying. He just realized like, oh right, like freedom means different things. And like he wants to be with her. Cool. He can make that choice. Yay.
Yay.
Um, so then I went to Passalia. That is how you pronounce it. I heard them say his name. He is the blue-haired man, the fourth one on this list.
Looking like a peacock.
He does look like a peacock. He looks a little bit more normal when he's in his
And now he's got
regular
drugs
gear.
on his side.
It's not drugs. It's a I mean, one of them is an hourglass, but I don't know what the other ones are. Maybe he does have drugs. Yeah, otherwise he looks like a peacock. Oh, he has pants on in that one. I didn't realize that. I thought he had a dress on. But I guess if he didn't have pants on, he'd be just flash in the front. Um, Donald ducking it. Anyway, um, so I don't know how much you remember of his, but his whole thing was he had an incurable illness where like all the water was drained from his body and he was dying and he was sad and like he had to end up like syncing up with a water spirit in order to survive. Does any of that ring a bell to
It
you?
seems familiar.
Okay. So that's how that goes. And so this one is a lot of them like figuring out like how do we tell the story of like the spirits? How do we sync up the spirits with the humans so that everybody can get along and understand each other, even though the humans can't see the spirits? So he's trying to be like a conduit um between them because he can see them and he realizes like there are problems going on. Like there's a landslide in his hometown and the spirits have been like acting up and like messing with the vegetables and messing with the laundry and all that. And everybody's like, why are they being so annoying? This sucks. And he like goes to talk to him and they're like, yeah, they cleared up the landslide for the people, but like they didn't clear up the landslide for the spirits, so our spring is blocked and this is upsetting to us. So he's like, how do I be like someone in between that can help out? And she's just there, the protagonist
She exists.
exists. Um, Also, I will say this is a T-rated game. So, there's nothing terribly spicy in it. But he is the only one that does the do with the heroin in this. So, good for him, I guess. He basically like when they're in his hometown, he's like, yeah, all my memories from this bedroom suck. Like I was sick all the time in this room. And then like in the first game, I rejected you in this room because I thought I was gonna die, and so I didn't want to like have us be in love because that would have been terrible if I died, and then no loving can happen. So instead of just being sad in this room, let's just overwrite everything.
That sure is a pickup line.
Yep, it worked because that's what they did. So, good for him for being the only one who got to do that. They're like, well, we get one shot. Here we go. Um, but yeah, so it really is like him trying to like honestly have confidence.
No confidence.
He's no confidence until like he's able to like build up that confidence by realizing like, okay, I'm not gonna die. I do have a use in this world. I have to learn how to like be okay with myself and be okay with what I can do and all that. So like a lot of what you do as the protagonist is just support him. Just fine. Like all your choices like believe in yourself and he's like, "Okay, woo!" Um so yeah, you end up writing like a children's story with him where he illustrates it and talks about all the spirits, and that ends up becoming like a big important thing for the kingdom. And they end up becoming like joint mayors
What?
of yeah. So at the very beginning of his route, the water spirit, I think her name is Leve. She's the Orions, yes, that's the name of the town. She's the water spirit that protects that. And at the very beginning, she's like, "Hi, Visalia. I want you to have the guardian earrings for this town and, take over my role essentially." And he's like, I don't feel like I can do that. So she basically says, go get your confidence. And then he comes back and talks to her and um he says like, okay, I'm confident now, I can do this, but I want to do it with her. And so she's like, okay, well, she takes an earring, you take an earring. You both rule. So now they're the
And then they
joint
fuse
mayors,
together.
like Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
Um, no, they get to be the joint mayors of the town. Although the funny thing is that like he still is like really shy and doesn't like to talk to people, which I get that. Um, and so at one point, they're doing this big ceremony for like them becoming the mayors and all that, and they just like jump into the ocean to get away from reporters.
That's one way to do that.
It's like, okay, sure, why not? And then the water spirit dies while they're gone.
So that's what happens when you jump into the ocean.
I know. So, now they're in charge. And the water spirit's dead. Oh, and his water spirit, uh, I forgot her name. The one that takes care of him. He has like a little tiny water spirit that follows around. I don't remember her name. Anyway, Vita maybe?
No, that's the
Uh,
PlayStation Vita.
Never die. Anyway, she ends up taking over the powers of like Leve and becomes like the new big water spirit and supports him. They can do cool stuff like girl drops her bear into the canals and he's like, "Oh no, your bear is sad because you're crying and I'm just gonna loop all the water out of it and look, your bear's fine now. Yay!" Which is kind of cool. Bloop. I did a hand motion with that too and everything.
All good, very good.
Um, but you didn't get to see it, obviously. So his was fine,
Yeah.
fine. Um, so then I did Vilio, who is our little dragon boy. Um, and uh,
Uh huh.
uh,
Uh
it,
huh.
okay, so this one again felt very much just like an epilogue of the previous game. So in the previous game, she ends up like taking on part of his powers and becomes a dragon bride, and now she's basically like has a ginormous lifespan. And yeah. Um, so she ends up getting like all of her magic powers in this route are going haywire and she doesn't know what to do. Like she'll just stand on some grass and like a bunch of plants will just grow around her because she ends up getting like earth power. Or she'll like be able to revive plants that are dead. But everything's like super out of control. Like she goes on a like romantic walk with Velia at one point, and like a bunch of vines just wrap around his legs, and he's like, "Oh, I can't move.
Whoops.
This is a problem. Can you help me?" Um, and so yeah, it turns out that like the whole thing is that like the protag is basically mourning the fact that she's no longer human. And so like that's what's making her magic go haywire. And she's realizing like, oh, everybody I love is gonna die before me except for, my new husband. So that's fair. She's struggling. Um, but it's boring. Um, like the whole thing is him like he's supporting her, but he's also like, I don't understand what you're going through because I've always had this lifespan and I've always seen people that I care about die. And so like it doesn't make any sense to me, but like I get you. I understand why you're sad. Oh, you've got some vines growing around my arms. Okay, I guess I'm just gonna stay put.
Sad story, still boring.
Yeah, it basically is. Um, so yeah, I don't really have a whole lot more to say about this one. I mean, it was a whole thing of like he realizes he can't feel the same things that she feels, but he can like support her and help her get through it. That's it. That's the gist. Boo.
Woo.
Okay, so then we have the if stories. And I started with Ginia, who is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in. He's the guy with the blonde and pink hair,
Big hat.
big hat. He looks flamboyant in both of his portraits. So this route, this
Uh
route is
huh.
I mentioned to you very early on that I was like, I don't know that this should exist. I don't know that this route should be a thing. Because it is heavily implied in the first game, like, he's not into women. And that was the whole thing that I was thinking when I read this. I was like, how's this gonna work? Because like I don't think he likes women. So this whole route is basically him just like them retconning him not liking women and trying to find ways to be like, how do we make him love the protest? Also, he's a decade older than her. He's 26 and she's 16. Ooh. So that's great. Um, so how does this route go down? Basically, after the circus ends, Tifalia signs on to be Genia's secretary. Wow, that's the second time we're a secretary in this. Um, and so she like, is annoyed by him for the most part, but then at one point she's like doing errands for him and goes by his house and he's like, "Oh, I'm busy. I'll be right there. Just, stick around for a second." And then he comes out like in a towel with like wet hair and with his makeup off and everything. And she's like, "Oh, he's a man."
What?
Yeah, she's like, "He's a man. He is a man." Um, and so she just kind of like loses her mind at this point because she's like, I've never really thought about him as a man before, but now I can see him as that. So a lot of this is just like, um, she's fallen hard for him and she's like trying to figure out like, how do I have him see me as a woman and how do I have him see me as like a mature person that can be with him and how do I like make him look at me and blah blah blah. Um, And the whole time he's just like playing with her, I guess. Like he goes along with some of the flirting, but then like backs off and is like, never, we're not doing that. So it's just kind of like a back and forth thing that's really annoying. But also like he has monologues throughout. He's just like, I'm a giant walking red flag, and I'm like, boy, you sure are. Like the whole time he's just like, this just, you shouldn't do that. You should definitely not fall in love with me. This is a problem. You deserve better. There's a guy out there for you that is definitely not me. Um, like he's very much aware, like she has feelings for me, and he's trying to figure out like how do I make her stop doing that? Um, so yeah, it comes to a head at one point where like they're doing work for this big like celebration for the king and she like tries to confess and he basically like puts his hand over her mouth and is like, if you say something right now it's going to change everything and I think you should reconsider. I'm going to go get some tea and I'll come back and everything will be fine. And so he
Thumbs up.
leaves. Yeah. Oh good, wink. So he leaves and then his best friend Alice, he calls him Allie. And then the king come in and she's just like bawling her face off, crying, and they're like, are you okay? What's happening? And then they realize like, oh, he's a dumbass. He's been messing with you. So they basically tell her, like, go home, get it together.
Be a
Like
family man.
it'll it'll be okay. Like he's being dumb, whatever. So she leaves. She goes and like cries in a street corner. And then he comes back with his tea and he runs into like Allie and the king and they're like, "Hey, dude, what was up with her crying?" He's like, "What? What do you mean she was crying? Why would she do that? That seems wild." They're like, "You know why she did that. Shut up." Um, and basically they put him in his place. Even the king like says something. He's like, "Are you telling me this is the king, or are you telling me this is a person, or what?" He's like, "No, I'm telling you this is a person right now, but also like if you don't fix it, I will step in as the king." He's like, "Oh, okay. All right then. Well then, I'm going to go try and find her." Um, And then he uses his like wind magic to run through like I think he said 32 streets and side streets until he finds her crying on the corner. And then she like freaks out because he's like sweaty. She's like, "Oh my God, he like let himself sweat for me. That's wild. He's not like a perfect pretty man."
What?
Yeah, it's really weird. But then he's like, "I screwed up. I have feelings for you. I was scared of that. If you put your hand on my heart right now, you'll feel that it's beating really fast, and I promise it's not because I was just running around. Um, I made the person that I'm in love with cry, and that is not okay." And so like basically he comes around. But in the meantime, we have to retcon the fact that he does not like women. So there are several conversations that happen. One happens with Eon and Zephora with Tifalia, where they even have a conversation of like, oh, and Ratty's there too, and they're like, does he even like ladies? Like, what has happened here? And then Eon is basically like, no, no. Allie says that he likes women. Like that shouldn't be a problem. It's like,
Source,
okay.
trust me, bro.
Yeah, basically. And then you end up getting like a monologue, like an internal monologue situation with Jinia, where he's like, everybody wanted me for my beautiful looks and my power because I'm the son of a noble family, and they wanted my money and they wanted my title, and I was so annoyed by everyone who like wanted to be in love with me and blah 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 blah. So I basically started a rumor that I was not interested in women, and I became flamboyant, and I am who I am now. And my family basically disowned me because like, wow, we're never gonna get grandchildren. And it's like this is an interesting way to make it so that he's interested in women.
It sure is
Uh,
a way.
it sure is a way. So they later have her like meet his parents at like the king's celebration, and they're like, "Oh my God, you brought him a woman." It's like, no, she's 16. Um, but they basically are like, "Oh, well, everything's great now because like you're interested in a lady and you're gonna have babies." And she's like, "Huh? What?" He's like, "Oh yeah, it's an expectation, you know. Didn't you think about that? We're gonna have babies." And then he just like does this really, really weird thing where like it she's helping him as the secretary, and she's at his house. She's like staying with him a few times. And then he basically is like, "Oh yeah, Ratty's bringing a bunch of your stuff, and I filled out all the forms. Like you live here now. This is just where you live." She's like, "Wait, what? What do you mean I just live here now?" And he's like, "Yeah, yeah, you live here. I filled out everything for you. Like it's all done." But then he like goes back on and it's like, but you have to actually sign the form because you know consent's so important. I'm like, this
Huh?
feels this feels not what?
Huh?
Huh? What do you mean you filled everything out, but then you're like, oh, never mind, I didn't actually submit it. I want you to consent to this first. It's like, then why did we go through this whole thing of you being like, all right, it's already done? What was the point of that?
Hmm.
What was the point of that? None of
Hmm.
that makes
Hmm.
sense.
Hmm.
It doesn't make any sense. Um, so yeah, she's gonna remain his secretary, but also they're in love and he likes women. Oh, and she has a conversation of like, hey, so are you gonna be like more masculine now? Because like everybody knows that you like women again. He's like, nah, this is just me now. So like I'm gonna stick to it. And she's like, okay, well I like that better anyway. It's like that feels like a weird conversation to have.
Yep.
Okay. So I hated this route.
There's definitely we had some multiple conversations. Be like, why would they do this? What is going on here? And you mentioned of how like this character was like the most popular or like one of the most popular characters that
Mm-hmm.
they did in like a fan poll. So I was like, yeah, it makes sense that they would, put them in this and make them a dateable if that's the case. But also like they, it seems like they really did some stretching to make this work or
Yeah.
try to make it work, I should say.
Try to make it work. Yeah. It was a choice. Um, so then after all of this suffering that I've gone through, it's like wolf man, wolf man, wolf man, wolf man.
Ow.
Please redeem this game for me. With your rat tail mullet.
And then you were like,
Well,
is this a mullet?
I did ask you. I was like, is this technically a mullet? An extreme mullet?
I mean, it might be. I mean, I didn't see how long his hair goes down.
I mean, it has it on the sprite work there that I showed
Well,
you.
I didn't see it in like the game picture you sent
Oh,
me,
okay.
but it might be. But
I
also,
mean
he's got
that
the rat tail as well. So
that goes down like past his booty.
yeah,
That's like almost knee length hair.
yeah.
But like the front is very short, except for like the little wispy bits in the like very, very front. Those are kind of long. Anyway, so I was like, Wolfman, you gotta bring it home for me. Fix this, please. Um, so do you think he fixed it or not?
No. My thought is no.
He did up to a point.
Oh,
And then they did something that I was like, why?
you hate to see it.
You hate to see it. I loved 80% of his route.
Then they're like, psych.
And once I tell you what they did, you're gonna be like, oh, okay. That makes sense. So his is a cute route for the most part because like he's always really flirty with her. And she's like, ah, dismissive. Like he's a ladies' man. That's wild. Like he flirts with everybody, and like everybody around her is like, no, I think you're misunderstanding. Like he only flirts with you. She's like, no, he flirts with everybody. It's fine. And everybody's like, oh my God, she's dumb. She's dumb. Why? Um, so a lot of this is her realizing like, oh, he does actually have feelings for me. Like this is a whole thing that like he's not making it up. And he even like at one point straight up just like confesses to her, but then it says like, you don't have to answer me. It's fine. Like I just wanted you to know. The whole like plot that's running through this is that you find out like his older brother came back and that there's this whole thing with the Wolfman. I forget what the actual uh what did they call him? Did they say it on his little thingy what he is? Fenrir,
Uh,
Fenrir, right?
no, it doesn't say anything on here.
Okay, well he is. He's that. He's Fenrir. Basically the whole thing is that like they're very dedicated to family and that like once they find their person,
Family, you say?
it's all about family. Once they find their person, like they stick with the person, they're monogamous, like that's just how it is. And she's like, "Oh, wow, I didn't realize that. I thought you were just flirting with everybody." And he's like, "No, huh?" Um, and he explains like his mom was sick and that, they were running, he runs a like bar tavern general store called Cheers and they have a bunch of different cheers all around the country. But like his mom was sick, so they bring her back to this town where everything basically takes place. And then his mom dies of her illness, and then his dad dies like a few months later because that's just how their race is. That like once your person or once your mate is gone, then like you can't hold on anymore. So the brother comes back and is like, "Hey, little bro, what's up? Wait a minute, you have feelings for a person, a human? This is a bad idea." And like several times he runs into Tifalia and he's like, "Hey, you're a dumbass. You suck. You're a human." And she's like, "Why does this guy have something against me? Who are you?" Um, and so Liam basically explains like, okay, so my older brother was in love with a human and they were like out on a date walking through the forest and a big monster attacked them and he realized like, oh, I can't take care of her as a person, so he turned back into his wolf form and it scared her and she dumped him. And so like he hates people now because he thinks that people are fickle and that they can't stay in relationships and they don't love people or they
That's
don't love
fair.
their mate. I get it. Um, so that's like the big plot of his thing. Everything's going great, right? Like they work together, they're flirting, he makes her some sweets. He defends her against his brother. He's being a sweet guy. Everybody's like, "Yay, he loves you. This is wonderful." How do you feel like they go wrong here?
Brother route.
No. So what they do is he basically explains to her in one of his confession moments. So he's like, "It's always been you. I've loved you forever." And she's like, what do you mean?" He's like, "Yeah, like you don't remember when I first met, but I remember." And then he goes into a story about how when she was a small child, she came into Cheers
Oh no.
right after his mom had died and he was trying to figure out what to do with himself. And this was like soon after she kind of came out of her like frozen state or comatose state after her parents died and was like starting to talk again. And so Ratty brings her in here and she like orders some pancakes and Ratty's like, "Man, these are pancakes, dude. Like, did you even put any effort in this?" And he like admits in the storytelling, like, no, he didn't because he didn't care. And that he was like depressed and having a hard time and all that and didn't even think about opening the store, but he did on a whim. Um, but then Tafalia eats the pancakes and says they're delicious and blooms one of the like happiness flowers and gives it to him as a gift. And he's like, "I fell in love right then." And he even like tells Ratty like in that moment, like, "Yeah, I'm in love with her." And he's like, "Dude, she's 7," and like kicks her even across the room. Like Ratty gets it, except for he doesn't get it because he does the same damn thing. Um, but he's like, "Yeah, it's always been you. Like you were the one that kept me going. You're the one that made me want to like do the right thing with Cheers, but I've been watching over you all these years and like now I love you like as a woman." And it's like, "Oh, you just had to do that, didn't you?"
I can't believe they just ripped off Twilight. That's my main thing here.
Oh my God. You're not wrong. So how they wrap this route up is that brother gets mad because he's like, "Oh no, he's in love with the human." So he like turns into his wolf form and grabs her and runs off with her. And um Leon's basically like, "Okay, I gotta go after him. Eon and Vilio, like you stay on standby, call in like the police force, whatever, like, but I want to try and handle it first. So just give me some space." So he goes and brother's like, "Hey, hey, hey, I've got your person. Blah, she's fickle. She's not gonna love you once she sees you in your wolf form." He's like, "She already has. She's already seen me as a wolf form. Like I showed it to her really early." He's like, "Ah, you did that because of what happened with me." He's like, "No, like I just felt like I wanted to show her that that's who I was. So, it's fine." He's like, "Well, let's fight anyway." So they fight. And Leon wins. He gets bloodied up, beats the hell out of his brother. His brother runs away. And then Tafali's like, "Hey, you look kind of messed up. Like, we should take care of you." He's like, "No, no, I'm good. Let me just like chill out by this tree for a second." And then this is where she like officially confesses that she has feelings for him too. And he's like, "But excuse me, like, it, did I knock myself in the head too hard when I was fighting my brother? Did I lose too much blood? Like, am I dreaming? Is this real?" She's like, "No, it's real. Like, I'm confessing to you." It's like, this can't be real. It must be daydreaming." She's like, "All right, stupid." And so she smooches him. He's like, "Oh, that was my first kiss. Can we do it again?" She's like, "Okay, sure, whatever." And then it ends up with him just like screaming about how much he's in love with her. Which like Vilio and Eon here and all that, and they're like, I guess everything's fine.
Guess we can go home now.
Yay! So yeah, they end up working together and getting together, and everything's honky dory. And it's like, if they just left out that one part, it would have been a really cute route.
But nope.
No. So like 80% of this route is great, and I loved it, and it was everything I wanted. And then that 20%, they're just like, he's loved her since she was 7. It's like, no.
Got him.
Nah.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that's it. That's this game.
Aren't you glad you sped through finishing this game now?
Yeah, because now it's done.
Well, speaking of it being done, it's time to put it on the list.
All right.
We have 40 games on here. This will be game number 41.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're right there. Do you want to just start at Radiant Tail and go down from there?
Okay, as long as we're not going up, we're good.
No, I didn't think we were going up.
Okay.
All right, Radiant Tail is at number 28 for those of you, we told you at the start of this episode. Actually.
Hmm. Hmm. I'm trying to decide now because I'm having a conflict.
I hate when I have a conflict.
Having a mental conflict of where does this go?
That's always the thing.
Well, because here's my thing. Like Radiant Tail OG vanilla, it was fine.
But this is boring.
This is boring. I didn't
Not bad, boring.
But it did let me date the Wolfman, even if 20%
But it was also
of his,
didn't go well for you.
only 20% of his route sucked. So I'm like,
But that's a big 20%.
It is a big 20%.
That's a worthwhile 20% there.
It is important. So I'm
that's
like,
not a gloss over 20%.
Like I almost kind of want to make them equal, but that's not something we can do.
That's not how this list works.
Where does it go then? Right there.
Are you sure?
Yep.
Are you sure it's not worse than Pio4 Episodio 1926 or Nor 9 Var Commons or anything else?
I don't know.
This is your list. You gotta know.
It is my list. It's hard. I just wanted to love the Wolfman. That's all I wanted.
And the game was like, nah, you don't. Nah.
You know what? I've made a decision.
All right.
Let's go down from Radiant Tail.
Okay. So is this worse than Radiant Tail?
We'll say it's worse.
Is it worse than Pio4 Episodio 1926?
I will actually say it's worse.
Is it worse than Nor 9 Var Commons?
It might be worse than that one.
Is it worse than Joe Starstruck?
Joe Starstruck had some good moments on the beach, so yeah, it's Joe Starstruck has some positive moments that I like.
Is it worse than Mr. Love?
Mr. Love isn't boring.
True.
It had questionable decisions that were made, but it wasn't boring.
Yes. So.
Okay, so yeah, it would go below Mr. Love.
Is it worse than Charade Maniacs?
That game was not good. I think it's gonna go under Mr. Love.
All right.
Do you want me to paste what I had, or are you just gonna type it? Okay.
We dropped it down, what, 4 spots?
Yeah.
4 or 5 spots
Yeah.
from where we originally had it. Coming in now at number 33
Out of 41.
out of 41, Radiant Tail Fanfare.
I mean,
Your new number 33.
all the other routes were boring. The Ginia route was just problematic. And then they didn't even give me a full wolf route that I liked.
It was also problematic.
It was also problematic. So yeah, there we go.
33.
33. Radiant Tail Fanfare.
There you go. So we've marked it, we've listed it.
Done and dusted.
Done and dusted. And that's going to do it for us this week.
Mm-hmm.
So if you'd like more from us, head on over to seasonalamecheckup.com or sac.cool. That's where you can find past episodes of this podcast and other podcasts like Jared Now Watch. You can also find columns and reviews on the site as well. If you'd like more from Anladium, go to anladium.com. She's got columns and reviews. You can follow us on Twitter and TikTok at Anime Checkup. You can follow us on Blue Sky seasonalamecheckup.com. You can buy our books, One Shine Moment, a critical analysis of Love, Life, Sunshine, Hot Tubs, and Pac-Man on Amazon.com. And you support us on Patreon, patreon.com/SACOVA. Buy us a slice of pizza, get access to unedited versions of the podcast early, a whole wealth of bonus content as well, our monthly Patreon exclusive podcast as well. All sorts of fun stuff on the Patreon. Next week, we'll figure out what we're doing for $3.99.
Wow.
Wow.